And welcome back to the LEC ahead of our second best of 3 series today, KOI versus SK Gaming. And guys, there's a lot to say about this series, especially when it comes to how surprising it was to find these teams in the standings. If we can check where everybody placed at the end of regular season, because SK Gaming ended up 3rd when KOI ended up 7th. And this is not something that we could have planned or anticipated coming into the season, GB.
Honestly, baffling that if you said this to me at the start of the season that this was how it was going to turn out, I would not believe you at all. And what's even more baffling is that just going off regular season, I feel like SK Gaming is kind of coming into this one as favorites as well.
Yeah, they absolutely are number 3 seed. I wouldn't have believed you if you said KOI would be a 3 seed because I thought they would be higher at the start of the season. But for SK, it's such an interesting path for them to get here because they are 3rd seed. They do come in as favorites, but they've also had like really missed weeks and really big hit weeks, right? Like week 1, I was worried about it. I thought this team was 9th-10th. And then week 2, they're the best team in the league out of nowhere. Like, it's just such a roller coaster ride, and they better come in as a top team today.
For sure. It's like something just snapped inside of them, and then they were just a complete different beast. And I'm actually really curious, especially to what Neon said in the interview as well, that he was favoring KOI going into it because they finally had a position where now they could scout their enemies. And I kind of see it as well, because with Markoon as well being on the Elise, if that's something you can shut down him on the early game jungle, which really brought a lot of success to SK, that could be something that would be very detrimental for today's matchup. But either way, yeah, SK Gaming, they're looking hot coming into this best of 3.
Yeah, I want to roll back a bit and talk about KOI here because they didn't start that good. And I want to know what happened to them. We talked about losing top lane, changing the dynamic of the team, even though the players said that it didn't change so much in the end. But yeah, I want to talk about how they started and how they got better over the course of these 3 weeks.
I honestly don't even feel like the fact that Szygenda came in was the big problem. Yes, he did not perform as much as Odo probably did last year, but it also just feels like Larssen, who's in a meta that many thought would be perfect for him with the rise in control mages, haven't really delivered. Comb and Trymbi as well, been shut down in bot lane and also against the SK bot lane. And I actually think I don't think Malrang has underperformed too much. Malrang just has this kind of performance where he as a jungler will go down in a negative deficit because he'll spend so much time around his laners, but I don't think the laners has carried that further.
It's like Malrang's always going to be your wild card, right? That's going to show up, have those games where he just unleashes himself on the map. Sometimes it won't hit quite as hard. But for formerly Rogue, now KOI, last year it was around that wild card, so many different pillars of consistency with Odo, the mid lane, the bot lane as well. And I think that with losing Odo, they brought in another more wild card player, right? A little bit more of a carry focus on the top side of the map. And then at the same time, well, that necessarily on its own isn't an issue. The bot lane stopped being that dominant force that it was in Europe last year, because last year was all about that lane as well as upset Hylissang. Those were the 2 best lanes, and then everyone else was a little bit quiet with a lot of the returning AD talent in bot lane, Crowny, Hansama, the Karzi Hylissang lane. I think bot lane's gotten a lot more competitive, and they also have not stepped up in the way that so many people were expecting them to after last year.
And that's what I'm worried about here on the side of KOI, because this lineup was such a central point for formerly Rogue last year. And the fact that they didn't change so much.
The team formerly known as Rogue.
And that this year there's such an emphasis on bot lane. I'm just wondering what happened, and do you point this over the fact that, as Anders said, there's maybe more competition on the bot lane right now, or is it just down to these 2 players just underperforming compared to what we've been used to?
Honestly, I think it's a great shout from Ender as well with his point, but I also just think the lack that I'm seeing from the bot lane of KOI specifically is the lack of confidence. The best kind of metaphor I could give to this is if you ever guys went ski tripping, okay? When you go to a ski school, kids in ski schools, they'll put on the skis and they'll just race down the hill. They have no fear whatsoever.
Okay.
Adult in ski schools, they're always thinking, oh, if I do this, maybe I get hurt, maybe I will fall, maybe I'll what happens. That's how I would describe the 2 different bot lanes today. I think Exakick and Dust have not been afraid to make plays, have not been afraid to flip it, and I see Comb and Trymbi more on the back foot.
I love this. And as you said, maybe it's the rookie effect of I have no expectations at all, and this is what made them strong so far. But on top of the fact that they've been individually performing well, I think we can count them as one of the best bot lane we have in Europe right now and there.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely up there competing. Like, 3 weeks is enough for me to confidently be like, yeah, they're like number 1, 2, 3, but they have been taking names against some of the best bots. And this was an example of when the duos faced off previously, and they just completely ran over this bot lane. It's like one of those duos that if they get a single edge in lane, they're going to be able to find that weakness, punish, and then run away with the game entirely.
And, you know, just coming out of a series where the 2 first games was pretty much decided in the bot lane, you can't really afford having the same kind of game as you did initially when you played against them. I think a lot of today's games will be decided by this bot lane, and specifically in the early game as well. I think both Markoon and Malrang are early game focused junglers, and I think they'll spend a lot of attention down towards the bot lane as well, because I do think it's actually really important.
And I agree, especially because those stats, like, Exakick is statistically just the best AD in the league, just like topping the charts, especially for the early laning phase, which credit to him and the duo for proving that they are at the top.
I'm just wondering how this one is going to play out today, because we saw that last time these two teams faced each other, we ended up having a lot of 2v2 kills in favor of SK. But as we said again, KOI maybe looks better than what they looked like back then when they faced SK. So what kind of expectations can we set for this best of 3 series, given the fact that you have lots of experienced players and a bunch of rookies on the other side?
I think, like, you go into draft, you take a look at, like, okay, what side are we going to be on? Are we red side? Okay, then we'll throw away the Ashe. You can throw away the Caitlyn ban. You can even throw away the Lucian ban. And then you kind of just swap in between the junglers and overload the jungle pool, because both junglers want to play the same style. We're talking about Sejuani. We're talking about Maokai. We're talking about the Elise. So you can kind of share this champion pool. But if you can tip the favor for your bot lane, that's really where I see it making a big difference as well.
I was going to say the Elise to me is something I'm looking out for, especially on the SK side. If that's able to come on in, that's a pick that's looked so good for them.
Quick hit on predictions, maybe. I have a hard time saying who's favorite in this one, even though people keep on saying that maybe KOI because of experience and how they've been ramping up, but I have no expectations here.
This one is so much harder for me than the first one is, really, because I felt like with the difference of preparation that can come in, I have no idea. My brain tells me SK, gut feeling tells me KOI, and that gives you nothing in terms of the question you just asked me. So how about I just say, keep it 2-1, keep it safe, and I'm putting it in favor of KOI.
This is the best. I just love that we went from BO1s, now we get a BO3 as well, because it's like hard to know, like, with SK, how like flip-floppy they were week to week. Like, how good is this team actually, and are they able to adapt on the fly? This will be a big test for them in the same way that in years past for KOI, it's been a test for them to come out after being a best-of-1 demon and prove themselves in the best of.
And we saw how side selection had much a bigger impact when it comes to best of 3 series. What can we expect here coming from the first game?
I think it's going to be easier drafting for your blue side whenever you're playing that, just because, like, so many times the other red side is forced to either get rid of the junglers or the AD carries. And I think for blue side, it's easier playing towards your bot lane as well. You get to either first pick and the rotation you kind of want to go for in that essence. And I also think it leaves open the potential of getting these, like, Lucian Nami despite the nerfs, Caitlyn locks on first pick, Ashe paired up with something else. So all of these things, I feel like blue side will have a little bit of an edge today, at least for the bot lane.
And we'll see how this one plays out as we're ready to get into the first game. Medic and Caedrel, take it away.
Thank you very much, Laure. It's great to be here for the best of 3s. You know, it's 2008 days since we had best of 3s in the LEC.
Oh yeah? Who was the last teams that played?
Oh, it was Unicorns of Love versus H2K.
What was the score?
2-1.
Just off the top of your head like that?
Yeah, Jankos lost that one as well. It's a bit of a shame for him.
History repeated itself. When was that, 2018?
2017.
2017? That was 6 years ago.
It was a long time ago,
You were casting?
No, 17, I probably wasn't, actually. I did the second half of 17, but we have SK versus KOI coming up next, and looking forward to these two titans facing off on the Rift. People didn't expect game 1 to be that close, but game 2 likely to be a bit of a banger here. SK have shown us some great things across the course of the season.
Yeah, finishing in 3rd place. If XL had beaten Vitality in that final week, then they would be 2nd, I believe. Yep. So would have an easier seed, but here they are up against KOI. I think a lot of people think that KOI is the one team down there near the bottom that can cause upsets, and as expected, I mean, there are ADC champions from last year, and they've kept 4 out of 5 of the players. So we're straight into draft. KOI on the blue side, SK on the red.
Yeah, SK got side selection and selected red. Has been predominantly the winning side throughout the course of the regular season. Of course, today we are on 13.1B, which means we have some changes to AD carries. We have Yuumi kind of falling out of the meta, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yep.
And some changes to, you know, Caedrel and Ryze in the mid lane. But don't expect to see too much different in terms of drafting.
Yeah, draft started and Trymbi's already asleep, so he knows he's getting some Lulu lane. We'll see what happens in the bot side, but yeah, Trymbi's one of our best range support players, I think. There's the Caitlyn Ashe ban, Draven taken away. We'll see if Zeri gets touched a little bit. Lucian Nami still pretty strong. There's a Zeri ban. think Varus has dropped out a little bit, interestingly enough, but I still think quite a powerful champion, more so of a poke. But Maokai's up. Sejuani looks like one of the strongest junglers on the patch as well. Jax is also a first rotation champ as well, I think.
I mean, I think with the Draven ban, the Zevi ban, KOI are moving towards that Lucian Nami down towards the bottom side. Pick the Nami first, or can look for the Lucian first, then SK will take the Nami away, but usually you want Nami plus Draven. That's why KOI removed the Draven. Also, Exakick's a very good Draven player, so no real surprises there. There's the Lucian ban by SK. Read it the same as we did. 5 AD carries banned out in the first phase. One of them played majorly in the support role. There's Sejuani first, though, Caedrel.
Yeah.
Great prediction, man. I can't. Oh,
Sejuani
off the top of your head as well. Do you think
like
Vi might get picked in this game?
Maybe Vi, maybe Wukong. I would like to, normally you could pick things like Trundle as well, but you need to see a melee support. It has to be like Nautilus, Sejuani to merit the Trundle pick. Jayce is such a powerful pick as well, can flex on red side. If Sertuss is confident in the champ, then they can keep that as a little flex later on in the draft, save solo lane for last pick. Varus here would work if you want to go to a kind of pokish route. But Vi is something, I mean, you have the option here of I will pick my AD carry in terms of Varus, or I can just pick a jungler and hide my bot lane for now. The only issue you could run into is if they pick, you know, let's just say for argument's sake, Xayah or Rakan, you're having to drop AD carry or support, so you sacrifice your bot side a little bit. They're going to go for Maokai instead, so they have got poke champ in that regard. They'd get a little bit of a nerf on the E, so I've been seeing things like Aftershock Maokai in the LCK. We'll see what direction Markoon wants to go into, but KOI here could go full topside. They could match this Jayce and pick something like Renekton, or they could just decide to go for their bot lane.
Is there a risk in picking Renekton that SK do still have the flexibility in that Jayce, so you could pick Renekton, then have things swept on you right at the last moment? I think KOI realized that possibility as well as they go for the Sivir Karma. Not the Varus Karma, not full push, but Ricochet has so much power with Navori Quick Blades right now. You basically have it on an uncooldown. I was going to say unstoppable cooldown. There's no cooldown to it. Infinite cooldown.
Infinite,
but it's not on cooldown. It's an infinitely non-existent.
It's Earth times 100.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll see.
You just ricochet the entire lane away.
Yeah, see if you can get some auto attacks off in those fights with that Navori, but we'll see what SK does. They are going to go for the Xayah drop support, expecting, I mean, Rakan ban could work for KOI, but Karma's really good into Rakan in terms of lane phase and just pushing them in, so we'll see what direction they go in. Normally, we've seen many different iterations of Xayah with the Totality Xayah, but it's obviously still more on-hit base now.
I will say, pretty much everything is very good into Rakan in lane. I can't think of many lanes that... Yeah, Braum isn't the best. Maybe Alistair as well, not 100% the best, but I expect that Rakan would struggle a lot if SK decided to pick it. They're going to get rid of some mid laners though. Azir removed by them, no real surprises. One of Larssen's most played champions across the course of his career. His most played here in Winter Split as well. And even though Larssen has been under the radar, I think we'll say, throughout the course of 2023 so far, he's still a player that has shown often enough that he can step up when the games really start counting.
Oh, 100%. We'll see what he opts into. I think when you play things like Sejuani, Akali, and Sylas work really well as kind of assassin mages if you are playing a strong carry top. Szygenda does like to lean towards those carry tops. Fiora, Renekton, the things that he'll start looking for. The GP ban I like a lot. I think Xayah struggles in teamfights when GP ults on top for her, because Xayah against poke champs in general, it's really hard to find the right time to ult. You know, against Vi, against Syndra, it's very one-dimensional. But up against things like GP and Jayce, it just makes it really annoying. So the GP ban makes sense. We'll see what KOI opts into as a last ban here.
And Jax has still worked his way all the way through picks and bans so far as well. SK will likely look to support on 4 here and then save that counter pick for last pick. There's the Jax being taken away.
Like the back of your hand as well, man.
I mean, I literally just looked at most played champions for these teams. Like, there's the Jax. So yeah, likely to be support here for SK.
How frisky does DOS want to get with this support pick? He could go for something really simple, like we talked about Rakan. We could also go for something like Renata to match up against his Karma. Could also go for a melee support. Would work well with the Maokai. Lock down the Sivir next to the Maokai. There's the Nautilus, makes a lot of sense. Could have gone for Alistar, but I think the lane is just way too hard. Alistar is just good in Sivir, right? Now it's KOI's top and mid. Renekton's open. I think that would be a no-brainer. Renekton Akali would work. The only problem is Nautilus is really good into those assassin champions. Sylas works a bit better.
Stealing away the Nature's Grasp gives you a lot more utility in a team fight as well. We see, you know, those brambles clashing against each other in the bot side river often. Not going to be Cassio. Instead, the Gnar, something safe in the top lane for Szygenda. Doesn't know yet if he's playing into this Jayce, but into the Jayce matchup, the Gnar does okay.
I think they should flex this Jayce towards topside and look for something like, I don't know, something like LeBlanc maybe, or Akali in mid. Something that can work well inside. Ryze could also be pretty good here for Sertuss. But it looks like they're just going to go for Jayce Renekton. Maybe they do want the Jayce in mid. I think the Jayce has a winning matchup in both those lanes, and the Renekton also can win both those lanes, so I think they're pretty happy.
I agree. My concern is they don't have a huge amount of magic damage, especially with the nerfs to Maokai on this patch. You can go Demonic Leandri still if you want. You can still have that, you know, first strike, lots of damage coming out from the saplings, but it's not as strong as it was. It's not as powerful as it was, and the rest of their team is entirely physical damage. So could be a struggle for SK Gaming if KOI get to the position where they can start stacking up some of that armor.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We'll see what direction Markoon goes with his build, but I'll be surprised if he does go that first strike route. Yeah. I think he's kind of forced to at this point looking at his draft. So they lack a little bit of frontline in that regard as well. It's a bruiser Renekton and a support Nautilus, whereas in the side, you know, that Sejuani Gnar with armor is going to be a bit of a pain to get through. So KOI's front to back very strong. Larssen can kind of solo play the fight, take away things like the Maokai or the Nautilus ult. SK, a little bit of poke would help. Getting Xayah up time would be nice, but she's an AD carry that you can leave to do her own thing because she can self-peel quite easily. So the Jayce and the Renekton need to find their way through these fights. I think Markoon needs to play towards his top side.
Well, it's a huge game for both these teams. Kicking off for the best of 3 with a win sets you in very good stead for the rest of the games today. SK on a tear through the regular season. Stumbled a little bit at the end, but Swiffer even talked about on Euphoria how they were trying some new drafts, how they were experimenting a little bit in week 3. So now we'll see if they can return to the form that took the heads of G2 and Vitality in the middle of the split.
And it's a best of 3, so you've got room to experiment. We saw last series a stomp and then a stomp again on either side, right? So you can't really overreact in the first game. Just come up with 2 different plans, try them both, see what works.
Wait, we can't overreact to best of 1s? Reddit has taught me so wrong for the last 4 years.
They're the best team in the world!
Oh, I can't believe Neon's amazing. Neon's awful. Well, we'll see how KOI and SK face off in game 1 of this best of 3. We talked a little bit about possible experimentation as SK go down towards the border. Flash hook, counter flash by Comp. Will manage to escape. I think DOS just went for that blind. Knew that KOI liked to stack up down towards that bottom side.
Oh, if KOI were a little bit faster, they could have turned that. Sejuani Sylas could have done so much work with the Mantra Q behind them onto DOS. Flash for flash trade means bot lane has become so volatile already now. See how both these junglers path. I expected the Sejuani to play towards the Sylas lane, try to burn a summoner on Jayce early on the level 3 Sylas, make his lane a little bit easier. But now, we'll see what Malrang decides to do. I think Raptor's red Krugs into bot side invade would work really well with this pushing bot side. We'll see how Markoon responds. But in isolation, the Jayce should get push. So I think SK have a little bit more resources to play around to get towards that bot side, to get Sertuss down there. Early ward to check in case Malrang does go for a gank towards mid. That ward there is a little bit tricky though, because if you hug the wall, you can kind of get around it. And oftentimes we see Sejuanis finish their 3 camps, get level 3, and then they queue over the wall. So they actually avoid those wards in the first place. DOS gonna sweep out that ward.
Yeah, could have caught Trymbi napping there a little bit. Trymbi and Comp already in this bot lane. They will try and gain the push here. Should be able to get it. Obviously, Karma taking that inner flame first. The Q means that she will be able to outpush anything that Nautilus can do. Ranged into melee as well, just so easy for Karma to be in a strong position early on in this lane. You can see the damage Exakick has to take just for stepping up to try and CS a minion.
Yeah, obviously when you play these lanes with Kalista and Draven, all-inning level 1 works really well, but problem is, I think with Xayah, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Not as much level 1 damage provided, but here's the early pathing that Malrang we expected to go for. Raptor's red Crux. Now, does he go into the enemy jungle bot side? I think it would work really well with this bot side stacking wave. Try to push out Markoon, leans to the right lane, and also Comp having no flash means that he can cover him. So here's the pings. But like we talked about, in isolation, Sertuss should have mid-push. And if Markoon goes to Malrang's top side, can his bot lane get dove? Is the question that I think both the junglers will be asking themselves.
Does Malrang spot that ward as he walks past? Looks like the sweeper may have just missed it. I didn't see any pings going down
Here's
on
the
it.
gank mid to free up the Sylas, but Markoon knows it. He's matching it really well.
So Sertuss is going to path up towards this, try and get the saplings in there. Markoon going into Larssen, flash away. Malrang now joins the fray as Larssen is low, down to 200 HP, ticking, but not quite enough. Markoon has to flash away. Malrang now looking for another stun. Gets it, Larssen flashes forward, but Malrang's already taking the kill. Markoon's next on the menu. 2 to KOI in the mid lane.
They read the play, but Sylas Sejuani level 3 is so strong. Double melee means they can lock up a singular target. DOS finds Comp, no flash.
Comp really doesn't have anywhere to get out of this one. Flash forward from Exakick, and the SK bot lane is off to the races. They've been so dominant throughout the course of the split so far, and they're continuing those winning ways.
Already level 2, they find an advantage. Relevance, ooh, doesn't get the stun on Szygenda. Could have got a little bit of burst down there. Maybe was thinking about flash stunning with the Q. Gonna go into a replay of this mid-fight. So, Does he get spotted? He does indeed. He doesn't see the ward, so that's really unlucky. So the information game is really in SK's favor. They know exactly what's about to come. Level 3 on Larssen, but the Sylas base damage, not that high in the early stages, but the Maokai's playing with Aftershock, so doesn't have that much burst. He flashed the Jayce Q damage too, so SK ran out of damage right here, and this is where Malrang can just keep stacking his passive. First on Markoon, he has to flash away, E-flash, finish off, and then Markoon has nowhere to go, really. I think that the damage from the Jayce Maokai just isn't enough up against the Sylas Sejuani.
Yeah, Sejuani with those early stuns, and it's the double melee as well. You proc that Sejuani stun so much quicker when you have a melee mid laner. Worked so well for KOI in the mid lane. We do have a peripheral issue just on the stage right now for one of the KOI players, which is what we're getting rectified right now. But then after that, we saw in the bot lane, Exakick and DOS continuing what we've seen from them for the last 3 weeks, just domination in that bot lane.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get a replay of that bot fight, because I think what happened was Comp panicked a bit. I think he spell shielded before the hook went off, thinking that DOS was going to throw it, and then as it faded, the hook did come out, and then he has really nowhere to go, you know?
It's actually, I wonder if DOS did the auto-attack cancel that you can do on Nautilus, where you pretend to auto a minion, and then you can Q out of it, and it can look like you're going for the Q sometimes. Maybe Comp was anticipating that happening, because it does look very much like his Q animation when you do that.
Yeah, either way, it's a mistake and capitalized on really well by SK, so they should be able to get a nice push out and move towards mid with their support, which should help out the Jayce a little bit, but playing Jayce in the early stages against Sylas especially, you win trades so hard. Having lost your flash and lost the lane already and giving Sylas a kill and so much room to breathe, it's going to be a bit difficult to salvage, but we're back into game. Looks like that issue's been solved, and DOS is coming out of base. Wave's still in a good spot for SK. They didn't actually push it out. Malrang snuck around Markoon here. Can he smite it away?
Yes, he can.
That's a bit of a pain. No flash either. If Sivir could move up here, they could look to collapse, but it looks like Comp's just a little bit too far away. Markoon has to go back to his own jungle.
But that battle between the junglers is one that we really thought would have a key impact in this game. When SK were thriving in week 2 of the regular season, it was all on Markoon's early game, him finding early ganks, finding time to be around his team. Since then, you know, things have ebbed and flowed a little bit for him, and you can see across the board these teams actually, these two junglers relatively even in terms of statistical impact for their teams.
Definitely, and it looks a bit weird there because Malrang has very low kill plus assist at 14, but also really low CSD, and I think the creativity that Malrang's bringing is finding less and less success, but it's finding a lot of summoners, which is very hard to measure. I think pressure is one thing that's hard to measure in stats, and I think he does bring a lot of pressure to lanes, right? Markoon knows he's here, he's not farming, so SK, Sertuss then has to give up the push. And I think that looming threat is what KOI play off of.
Sertuss trying to dodge to the side, but he gets knocked up with the Arctic Assault, and you just can't escape the looming threat that is Malrang once again. 2-0-1 now on the board.
Yeah, they have bot push this whole game as well. Szygenda's just going even topside, so it's the Malrang show here in this series. Exakick yet to base, so he has that kill, which is fantastic, but he's not actually been able to spend the gold from the kill, so they're still struggling. Comp's come out of base with a longsword and a couple of potions, and Larssen will back off. Markoon now behind the bot lane of SK. Comp, so no flash just yet.
No spell shield as well. I think he used it less than, it's about 25, 26 second cooldown right now. Comp's gonna just dodge to the side. Instead, they turn their eyes towards Trymbi. DOS does have flash, has the root as well, but no hook for him means that Trymbi can just walk out of there. No real damage on the tree as of yet.
I also think because of the Glacial Augment, you see Comp's flash just came up now. DOS already had his. I think he has Cosmic Insight, so they could have punished that a little bit harder, that time window, but he misses the hook. Comp gets out, and then there's no CC for Trymbi. The bounce actually hit Markoon there and stopped his base, so as much as it's been a success in the bot lane, it's just slowly crumbling away. Comp will be able to push out in base. It's not the end of the world for SK just yet. Having the Maokai Nautilus is very good around skirmishes and objectives. Dragons and Heralds is really where they want to focus.
The saplings just give you so much extra vision control as well, and with no Umbral Glaive for support in this game, your vision control tends to stick around a little bit longer when you put those wards down. Larssen tried to trade with Sertuss here in the mid lane. Malrang looking for that flank position, that gank position once again. The dive has been called.
They have not really got a wave, it's just a gank really. He's not going to be able to hit the Q, but he can hit the slow.
And there's the root as well. We don't really need to hit the Q when Sertuss has nowhere to move. Malrang takes it again. A flail of the Northern Winds enough to secure that kill. And it is domination in the mid lane here from KOI.
Tried to give the kill over to Larssen, but he's a little bit scared that the Jayce could get out, so just make sure that one gets picked up. Markoon is going to get spotted on another ward. Not been able to really find anything since that mid 2v2, and he's been put behind from it, but Malrang invading, constantly ganking mid. Sertuss just really, really struggling now. Not really much to come back from. I think SK need to find a different win condition. Topside isn't really it. I think Markoon needs to start playing through bot, forcing these summoners out of the Karma. Maybe trying to find a way into their bot side jungle in that direction. But yeah, Sylas Sejuani, insane setup. SK kind of lost control of the ball.
See already 1,000 gold lead for Larssen, 1,000 gold lead for Malrang as well. And a lot of people wondered when these two players would start to look like their former selves, start to look like the players that won the league last year. And although this is only a 7-minute sample size, I think we can say they are looking on form at least for the first 7 minutes of this game. Malrang once again on the gank path up towards the top lane. He's unrelenting, unstoppable on the ball, and Irrelevant needs to be careful because he's been hit with a wallop. Now he's going to get hit with that flail. Malrang just defending. Dominus was popped by Irrelevant. Ooh. And the wave will just be outside tower range here as well. You can see Irrelevant trying to get it in.
Yeah, Malrang thought that Markoon was in the lane, but he wasn't. He thought Irrelevant would run away, but instead he ran forward, so then he assumed that the Maokai was behind him and they would lose the 2v2. Yeah. They don't actually have information. Then once he realized that it was only the Renekton alone, he tried to re-gank it, but the wave was already dead. Markoon will capitalize with a dragon, but Malrang should look for some kind of herald on the top side, so it should be an even trade overall, but good pressure there.
Good hook onto Comp. The root has to be flashed away from Comp. Down to half HP. They're trading back onto Exakick and DOS here. DOS taking a chunk as well. Exakick does have the ultimate. Comp still only yet to hit the level 6.
They need to dive this lane. Ideally, they need some kind of jungle mid-pressure, but they're just going to have to back away. They can't really crash the waves either. It feels like the Sivir Karma can just clear the wave in an Nautilus's face when he's on cooldown.
I mean, it's the problem with not having a huge amount of push, right? It's a melee support into a range support, plus the wave clear that you get from a Sivir with that ricochet. Like, how do you ever get that wave under tower and have the time to dive it?
Yeah, you're completely right. So there's the dragon for Herald trade. Still KOI coming out on top. I think first Herald's always better than first dragon. So we'll see how they use it. We're gonna gold over to Malrang. Can get about a plate and a half. Gonna counter jungle Maokai's jungle camps. Of course, he saw him on bot side because the dragon died. Not gonna risk the red buff. Just gonna take away these raptors, and with the ult up on Malrang, it's so easy. Oh, Sertuss stole it away. That helps a little bit. Tiny bit of payback.
To SK, they really need to find a way out of this hole because currently it's only getting dug deeper and deeper. KOI looking very strong here in the early game, and they tend to like to, you know, get these early leads and then slow the game down a little bit. They'll use this Rift Herald, they'll try and put some more gold, it looks like, into Comp's pocket as Larssen works his way down towards this bottom lane, but we'll just clear out vision in the river and allow his bot lane to safely farm up once again, Caedrel.
Yeah, massive lead over to Malrang and Larssen. You can see Radiant Virtue completed 9 minutes 30 seconds, so the Sejuani is basically unkillable at this point.
He's got his Mythic, and Larssen has a sapphire crystal, a ring, and a book.
Look at Markoon's items. He's got a crystal and some scuffed ass shoes.
I've got my Charmander, man. Please just leave me alone. The guy's just coming in with a Mewtwo.
Absolutely no chance whatsoever, especially when he gets the red buff as well, right? So Malrang will start putting on the pressure. And as much as it's a Sejuani and he's full tank, yes, he might not have the damage, but he has the time to spend just in your face, knowing that you can't kill him, forcing plays that you're even losing at times, but because he's so far ahead or winning. Szygenda's only job in this is just to go even, and that's kind of how KOI worked a little bit last year, where Odoamne just can play tanks, and as much as he would win his lane, often at times, it was mostly towards mid-bot side where Malrang would like to focus on things like the Java, and will get spotted on that pink on the invade. Markoon is level 7, so in terms of experience, he's there, but now he's spotted coming through lane.
Just all in the bot lane. There's the Nature's Grass as well as they look to try and lock down Comp. No flash, has used the Ghost, but the Nature's Grass, oh, he dodges just between them! Depth Charge and the Featherstorm, 2 more ultimates invested, but enough to secure the kill.
Just out of range, I think it ticked off. Didn't land, but still, yeah, great kill. Exakick 2-0-0, and if anyone on SK that you'd want to be fed as an SK fan, it would be Exakick. He's shown so much consistency throughout these last 3 weeks. Him and DOS have just been demolishing every single lane they play. I think Exakick's stats are nuts. I mean, you don't see a CS difference there, but I think it's around 21 at 14, which is incredibly high for any carry, especially with a sample size of 9 games. If you said that was over 3 or 4 games, I'd say there's outliers, but yeah, over 9 games, that's really, really reliable and stable. So we'll see how Markoon plays around it. I think he needs to start playing through bot a bit more. We just saw him get the kill onto Comp, didn't get an assist because the ult didn't land, but the idea is good. He needs to rinse and repeat.
And that KOI bot lane has been a point of weakness for them, or a point of relative weakness compared to where they were last year. Comp and Trymbi seen as one of the best, if not the best bot lane in Europe last year, and this year they've really struggled to find their mark. Now, Larssen and Malrang are working their way down towards this bottom lane. Trymbi here as well will be spotted on a ward. Markoon, though, waiting for Comp, goes in immediately. Nature's Guard's going to try and knock him back with the Bramble Smash. The hook goes short as well, and Comp's able to walk away. Malrang coming in alongside Larssen to ruin SK's day. 2 quick kills over to KOI. DOS forced to walk back to safety.
Mid-jungle covering the play. They knew the only option SK had was through bot, and Malrang and Larssen were lying in wait, out of vision. The second they pulled the trigger, they are there out of the darkness. The ult lands onto Exakick, best target you could look for. Comp survives, and I think with Herald they can take this entire bot tower gold swing is going to go all the way back into Comp's favor. Bot's now evened up. The rest of the map is winning, so everything is now kind of falling apart for SK.
All 5 plates, an extra 1,000 gold or so going over to KOI. They'll only get almost 4. I think the plate will fall. Yep, does go down in the end. But as you can see, gold even out in that bot lane. Both of them at 4.4k now. And overall, a huge swing in favor of KOI. Because their middle jungle was so far ahead. Translating that lead into something else is the important point for this portion of the game, and they've done exactly that.
Yeah, Sertuss isn't really in the game. He's just so far behind that he can't really help his team. He can't move into river. He can't push out waves. He's just stuck under his tower. That allows Larssen to move towards bot, and the 4v3 you'll never win it. So I think KOI are very confident. They know they're in full control of this game. Exakick's going to respond with a plate. No TPs available that can come in from behind. Of course, no unleashed teleports for a minute, but we'll look at this replay. Just KOI, really good vision game. They saw Markoon. They know his only option is bot anyway in the first place. Just wait for them to make the mistake. There's no point in them forcing first. They know Markoon's going to go in. Just stay out of vision, wait, and the second they go in, this ult from Malrang, pixel perfect, lands straight onto the AD carry, and SK have no chance.
Yeah, nothing who can really do that as the SK bot lane and jungler just too far behind on the rest of the map. A 4,000 gold lead now for KOI. And they continue to accelerate it away from SK. SK's only mercy, the fact they took that first Drake, means that KOI, if they decide to drag and stack from here on out, will have to wait another 20 minutes or so if they do it on cooldown. The Hextech Drake an option for them now.
Okay, so Markoon just pinging top. Sertuss has one wave of push.
Do something somewhere, right?
Yeah, he's just saying irrelevant, just push the wave. Let's just try to dive this guy. It's the only option we have.
Gas going in. Szygenda only halfway towards the Gnar. Tries to get underneath the tower, but can't get there quickly enough. The Cole, the Meek, will do exactly that as Irrelevant picks up his first kill of the game.
Something's better than nothing. Bot's just been completely abandoned now by Markoon. He rinse and repeats it, but he got counter-ganked on. And the bot lane is kind of falling apart. So let's just play topside. Renekton, Maokai, good setup. The Gnar doesn't really have his mythic yet, not that tanky either. So they can look for those dives. It's just that's not their win condition. You look at the game state and how SK want to play. Is Renekton plan A? Well, I think you just leave him in isolation and let him be a mid-game bruiser, right? The kill is great, but I think getting the Xayah ahead or getting mid-push is important. And both of those have fallen apart. Helps though. Getting towards the Gore Drinker build here, and he's against 3 melee, so I think the Renekton will be fine in fights. Just getting onto the Sivir will be really hard.
I'm just still so worried about this comp, my man. Like, Markoon, it looks like he's going Radiant Virtue here as well with the Kindle Gem. Played his Steel Caps finished on Szygenda, on Larssen. Malrang hasn't got Boots 2 yet, but he's already got the Radiant Virtue. Like, how, when all of your carries are like not in a good spot, do you ever actually work your way through this KOI front line as SK? Like, maybe you can find a couple of picks, but compositionally, I think they're just in such a hole, and if they didn't get an early lead, it's just going to fall away from them.
You're completely right. It's just weird that they went for this Renekton last pick when they have so much AD damage already, and Markoon's going full tank Maokai. Now maybe he's going this direction because he fell behind, but he has Aftershock, right? Sure. With the Aftershock, you kind of assume he's going tank in the first place, so I don't think that was the plan from the get-go.
So it's what best of 3 gives us, right? You can have a game that you mess up the draft, that you go for a different sort of draft, you go for an early win con and it doesn't work, you still have 2 options, 2 chances to get back in. Even if you lose this series,
TV
you still have another chance.
They really want to force it.
Irrelevant looking for it. Malrang over the wall, Markoon on the chase there. Trymbi not in the best of positions, but SK trying to collapse instead onto Larssen towards the top. Now Larssen has the depth charge and has a flash. Markoon's isolated down towards the bottom side. His comp tries to join the brain. Nature's Glass coming out, but SK, they're just all over the shot. In the end, they are able to engage onto Trymbi and find 1. Meanwhile, Szygenda still pushes in the bot lane and gets the tower there. SK get 1 kill out of it and lose the tower.
So they got Trymbi in the end, but the target selection from Irrelevant there was a little bit confusing. I think we'll see it on the replay. He just ran past the Karma straight top and got Larssen's flash, which is great, but in the moment it looked a bit questionable. Malrang trying to take away this crab. Needs to be careful though.
Larsen's here. Gets over the wall, depth charge in as they look for Markoon, but Irrelevant comes. Acts as a little bit of a bouncer. Larssen secures the Scuttle Crab. And in the end, it's 99 gold over to the KOI mid lane.
Yeah, you can see Larssen laughing on the player cams. They just wanted the crab. So flash from hordes from DOS is good because then he can try to follow up with an ult, but he doesn't actually have vision. Then they see Malrang. I think he just goes over the wall into 3 people. Maybe he's trying to escape here. Flashes out. Watch Irrelevant here. He just runs past Trymbi without flash.
As a support, that's what I like people to do.
Yeah, and I can kind of get it because he wants to go onto Larssen, but yeah, his W goes into the cannon. Larssen has flash anyway. In the end, they do eventually get Trymbi because I think he oversteps a bit too much despite getting out in the first place. And then, yeah, I think they get bot tier 1 here, KOI. They're just leaving Szygenda bot. They know they're in a 4v5, so they can't really over-engage despite being very far ahead.
Yep, still about 3,500 gold ahead. 2 minutes on the next dragon of the game. That will be an Ocean, so it's Ocean Soul, for whichever team deigns worthy to pick up. Anathema's now finished on Malrang as well.
Look at Markoon's items. Like, guys, can we have a tank? Yeah, we have a tank at home. Tank at home. It's like, he's not going to tank anything. He's going to get instantly one-popped. So, see if Markoon can get towards that first item soon. I mean, he is building full tank, so he should be fine, low econ.
What's he needing? He's like, let's see how much gold he's sitting on right now. Oh, yeah, he's on 1,000.
He's on 1,000 gold.
He should have
there we go. He's got his mythic, happy days, we're fine.
I mean, happy days are still quite far away, but for now, these are semi-melancholy days.
Semi-melancholy days,
SK jungler, I think.
Well, I think once Malrang gets plated steel caps, yeah, that top side is going to be a bit tricky to get through. But anyway, they're not facing a Dragon Wing condition. You talked about it. It's going to be a while before they can get that soul up and running of the Ocean Soul. But their Baron is pretty quick, I think, here, KOI. Sejuani with melees and a Sivir or any kind of hyper carry is just above average in terms of taking down Baron. And I think they're just going to play for side lanes here. So 1-3-1, Comp's going to push in mid and then look to collapse on either side they decide to play for. They need to get this mid tower down, though. Still quite low, but with Sivir, shortest range AD carry, and with them having hard engage with, you know, Maokai and Nautilus, a bit risky to walk up, so they'll start threatening the side lane towers instead.
Szygenda just pushes forward here. Sertuss can try and answer him. He's just finished the Eclipse on his way to that Mana Moon, stacking up as well, but it's a little while before that Jayce really is a nuisance at all for anyone on KOI. And yeah, he just gained the vision control, push in, and that's what you see Malrang and Trymbi doing together. Trymbi now resets, 30 seconds on the Drake. He'll get full Shard of True Ice stacks, get another control ward as well, and can come back out here and make sure that SK don't really have any vision around this Dragon Pit.
Larssen pushing out top, and SK taking a base here. I wonder if they're just going to drop the Dragon.
I think you have to, right?
Yeah, there's no real point in fighting.
You don't win a fight right now. But then do you win a fight later on as well, I guess is the question.
Maybe they're waiting for a Navori on the Xayah, and that's their direction of just like 2 items Xayah, let's try to take a fight, see what happens.
Yeah.
Renekton can get towards 2 items as well.
I mean, is that what you'd be calling for here? Is that what you'd be thinking about?
Yeah, I think taking a skirmish against 2 items Sylas, Sejuani, I think no bot push either, it's really hard. I think once they get in, they're just going to either get flushed out by them pushing mid and threatening your tower, or they're just going to hard engage on the first target you see. Xayah has to ult, you're going to have to back anyway and you lose tempo, right? So I think just going cross map is good. Does they already have a wave to play on? You can see Larssen pushed out all the way top. Hang on a second.
Exakick has the Feather Storm, has the flash as well. We'll use the Feather Storm first. Larssen still chasing him down, though. Counter Feather Storm from Larssen to dodge away from the Root Caller. Nature's Grasp will lock him up, but nicely played there by the KOI mid laner.
That's exactly what would happen if they went towards Drake. Now they'll get mid tier 1. They have no...
They might even... Glacial Prison goes between the uprights, but Sertuss still not in a good position at all. TP coming out as SK look for a fight in the mid lane, but the tower's already fallen, and Malrang is still full health, Radiant Virtue ticking to heal him up that little bit that he lost.
Just to rub salt in the wounds, irrelevant TP in expecting a fight, but KOI just ran away. And DOS couldn't use the ult because there was no real target that they could follow up on. So they just lost that global, they've lost Exakick's flash, they've lost Sertuss's flash, and they've lost the mid-tier 1. So now KOI had a lot of control over the game, but now they have a firm grasp on the entire map, really taking away the red buff, deep vision on the top side, and they'll just keep doing the same thing over and over. Well-oiled machine, I think KOI were last year. Their fundamentals, their checklist was just so on point, and I think once you give them a small lead, they'll just run away with it. Just need to keep control here, KOI, not get a little bit too overexcited in the plays and go too deep and allow SK to turn.
And that's why it was so odd to see them, you know, sitting down near the bottom of the standings when Winter Split came to a conclusion. They only just snuck in, remember? Only just able to secure one of those last couple of spots, and now irrelevant though. Needs to find a way to sneak out of this one. Malrang and Larssen having none of it as they lock him in place. There's the CC chain. A stun's going to come out as well. He's popped for dominance. Tries to slice, tries to dice, and will escape for the time being as SK try and collapse with the TP coming in. Now the hook just short. SK once again invests a global and don't really get much out of it. Malrang goes in with Glacial Prison. Trymbi's coming in from the side as well. SK forced back.
Yeah, they're getting pushed back in a 2v4, and you can argue that Sivir Karma's on the way, but if that hook hits onto Sejuani, who's going to do damage? The Radiant Virtue Maokai or this Jayce that's 1 and 3? With 1.5 items, they would have no real follow-up in the first place, so SK just lacks so much firepower right now. They can't even find a single target. Maybe if they hook Trymbi, they can look for a kill there, but now KOI, Malrang hasn't even based yet. He's probably sitting on around 1,000 gold. He's just staying on this top side, 1.3k gold. Larssen hasn't based yet either, and they still control this top side of the map. SK's draft is just so mid-game focused, but they're so far behind that it doesn't really do anything.
Just such a gargantuan lead here for KOI. You can see 4 of the top 5 names on that list are KOI players, and Sertuss isn't even close to breaking into that threshold. They'll continue just to push in this top lane will take their 4th turret of the game. SK yet to claim a single tower for themselves, and they are hurting a lot right now. DOS hurting as well. A lot of your gold as a support comes from some of those neutrals, you know, the towers. Well, I guess towers aren't neutral. Some of those objectives, those standing gold on the map. You can see he still hasn't even managed to get his first item complete. Could be Locket here. Could be the Radiant Virtue as well, although 2 on the team, not too necessary as Markoon already has one.
Yeah, I think Xkick's waiting in base for Navori. We'll see what he comes out of base with. Yep, there it is, picked up. There's more mana for Jayce. That's it. That's about as strong as they'll get, or even have a chance. So yeah, SK need to look for a fight, and need to look for a fight soon, because once KOI return to their jungle, they're going to take away all their wards. They're going to place down a Christmas tree worth of lights, and they're going to see absolutely everything and then start up the Nash and look to turn.
That's the thing is SK though, you need to have someone in the team who can say, we have to go now, right? Because often, I haven't played obviously in the professional setting, but often it can feel like, oh, let's just try and get a little bit more gold. Let's try and eke, you know, a little bit more gold out of the map and then play later on. But here, at this point, they are at their relative highest strength to their opposition. They're looking to try and catch Malrang out, but Malrang can't be slowed right now. The ward instead is the fight. Malrang, the 2v1, was able to get 2 autos down on that control ward, but not able to clear it out as of yet. Irrelevant, no TP on him. Szygenda does have his, so SK may be waiting for Irrelevant to have that teleport so that he can join a fight. Pomp's gone back and finished his Navois as well.
Jayce QE doesn't even take off his jungle green item shield. Like, they have no poke whatsoever. Maybe Irrelevant can take this blue, but yeah, they need to look for a fight soon. It's only going to get worse.
It's Malrang versus the world right now. Exakick tries to step forward. Comp immediately opens up on him. Depth charge going out. Comp's still knocked up. Markoon coming in as well. The Connection Prism's going to land. At the moment, it's a 4v3. But they're just retreating, and the Ignite ticks, and Trymbi takes a kill. Larssen now looking for the flank. TP available for Szygenda if he wants to join the fight, but doesn't even need to.
They just don't have damage. No one could do anything. Malrang's lost, what, 10-15% of his health bar, and that just came from a sapling off the end of it. Now they're going to force Nash. SK, yeah, there's nothing they can do. Maybe if Markoon can get... They don't have any blue orbs. There's no way he can get towards this pit. Larssen will zone him away. Yes, the Maokai all taken away. I mean, this point is just... Look towards next game, to be honest. I hate to say that in these kind of scenarios, but their draft is just so...
impossible to play from this position.
Yeah, it's so hit or miss. And the second they lost those mid 2v2s, everything around it just fell apart. This is just going to be a home run for KOI, sorry.
Yeah, and we saw Vitality have a similar start to the day as well. The dominant win in their first game. Heretics then struck back, and we had a couple... one stomp in the other direction, then a banger to round it out. So SK still can learn, can grow from this, can be debating backstage how they change things up. I would suggest some magic damage.
Medic has spoken. Listen to the prophet. Magic damage is a necessity. And I think they will listen to you.
Yeah.
I think they will go for more magic damage next game because, I mean, even the damage share aside, yeah, Jayce Renekton. I think if you play Jayce Renekton, things like Ziggs Leona bots are really good. Yeah. You know, you can play some kind of mage on 3 there, Ziggs, look for a melee support on 4-5, match the wave clear of Sivir, if that's your plan. But it wasn't. Spoiler.
And sometimes these things happen, right? You know, SK, it's been a while since we have seen them in the group stage. Consistently, they've missed out on the bracket stage of the LEC. You know, 8th, 10th, 5th through 13th. 5th and 13th, 7th, 11th, 7th, 11th, you know. It's been a struggle for this team. And this season...
That's their score, Medic.
That's their score?
Yeah. They didn't finish 13th in the LEC.
Oh, yeah, I messed that one up, didn't I? Anyway.
That would be bad. Even I haven't done that.
Can you please say something?
Yeah, they finished 9th. No, but now they finished 3rd. So they're a top 3 team in this series. Medic's losing it next week. He's gone. This might have to be a solo cast. Yeah, they were a top 3 team.
Benny would have covered.
No, I can't control it. I'm sorry.
We're all good. We're all good.
Yeah, you're looking for a play. It is the Hail Mary for SK. Just look for something. Try to kill someone. Stop this siege.
Irrelevant trying to fight Szygenda down towards the bottom side, but KOI can just close in once again. Exakick coming in.
Ooh, a kill?
Szygenda? No, he survives. And Irrelevant. Yeah, there will be a kill, Caedrel, just in the opposite direction.
Malrang is pushing on Sejuani.
Malrang is pushing top lane with the Baron buff. And SK retreat back towards their base once again. A member down, a player down right now, and perhaps a game down in this series as KOI will push in 2 waves. Szygenda TP up towards the top side. I mean, you can look for something, but what have you got? You've got no flash on DOS, you've got no depth charge. Larssen steals away the Nature's Grass just to force you away from your own base, and you can't even defend against the power of those roots.
Yeah, 3 nibs will go down. It's just a case of whether KOI just want to be greedy and stay in now, or if they want to base off these 3 nibs. Looks like they're being a bit greedy.
Yeah, Larssen pops a stopwatch, but Sertuss almost goes pop underneath the towers. The Baron buff continues, cannon minions pushing in, and SK cannot defend. Trymbi tanks up a couple of tower shots, but that's all the damage he's going to take in this fight as the Nexus towers fall. And even with the roots coming back from that Blade Caller, SK might try and defend. DOS gets hooked up there, Sertuss going in as well, the Feather Storm being used, but once again, KOI just unkillable. You just can't kill him. Even at their own fountain, SK cannot find purchase in the game as KOI go 1-0.
A lot to think about there for SK. Their draft just didn't really have any life, a little bit lifeless, I think. There was nothing really to play for. Mid lane fell apart, the map fell apart, and you can see from that point onwards there was just no crawling back unless there was any major mistake from KOI, but there wasn't. Very experienced team. They know exactly what they're doing in those kind of game states, and in best of series, they're always a danger.
They really are. And that's the reason you didn't want to pick them, even though they were bottom of your group. You know, you pick Heretics instead when you were Vitality. We saw how that went earlier today.
Bounce back.
That's the thing. But how do you? I mean, I guess
this is an easy one.
So it's easy. It's like we draft better.
We draft better. Yeah. Exactly. So you don't really blame the game state. You say you tried your best. You know, you tried to look for plays wherever possible. But in the end, the whole thing was just falling apart from the get-go. There was no foundation below what you were trying to build upon, right? So as long as they change that up, I think they'll come in with a fresh mindset. It's not too much of a. It's not really a long mental game because it's not a best of 5, but it's just a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
You plan, try
just
something
bounce back and try something different in the next game. And for KOI, just keep doing that. You know, it wasn't even just the draft that won them that game. KOI's early game, Malrang's positioning, Malrang's ganks in that mid lane really shut down any hope that SK had of getting that Jayce into a strong position. So if Malrang can do that again, if he can team up with Larssen or even with his bot lane or even with his top lane and just have that pressure from the off of the game, it becomes very difficult for SK to match that.
Definitely does. And of course, a lot of these players are kind of inexperienced in the best of series. Yep. Markoon has won, I believe, best of 5 in playoffs was summer last year. They got knocked out by Fnatic, I think.
Wait, didn't they finish 13th?
That was SK, but yeah, no, but yeah, it was XL. I think it was against Fnatic. They lost, and then the other players around them have never been in best of 5 series in the LEC. I think Irrelevant had a couple with Misfits as well. Yeah. But yeah, the jungle bots are just. It's a fresh thing. Mid bot's fresh thing.
Exactly is. And you can lose one series and still make it through. 2 losses and you're out through group stage and through playoffs. A loss here does mean that you'd go into the lower bracket for playoffs if you manage to make it through. So it's a little bit more challenging, but you can still face up against Heretics, take that win, and then beat whoever loses out of Vitality and KOI if you are SK. But that it's putting the horse before the cart, well, putting the cart before the horse a little bit there, because obviously KOI still have to win another game if SK are going to lose this series.
At least I can't finish 13th. The way you said that was so funny.
Just for a moment, my brain was just blank. And it often happens as a play-by-play.
You can see here in spring 22-21, they finished 5th to 13th, somewhere in that.
It did not go well. Apologies for that, but we are going to hand it over to someone with a little bit more professionalism as Laure, take it away.
I'm not sure about this one, but thank you, Medic. Anyway, I was expecting a bit more of a fight for this game, but yet again, I think draft Diffie here in the favor of point.
What, you don't like full AD comps?
I don't like Jayce on this patch. I don't like Jayce on this patch. That's all.
I mean, fair. I think even with the Jayce, you can make some things work, like maybe go an AP on the Maokai a little bit earlier. I mean, honestly, just a little bit disappointing on that front too, but also after all the hype that we set up for the SK bot lane to then them come away with the kill, and then mid lane is just a disaster. It felt like heartbreaking.
The thing is, even if this game was close, you winning bot lane did not matter, because they were still going to itemize full AD. You even saw Malrang go for the anathemous change. He was just going to slap that straight on Exakick as well, and he would do no damage. I think it's good as a best of 3. It's actually really good. You know, SK, they finally get some best of 3 practice. They get to finally get the do-over, because quite frankly, I have no takeaway from this game. The fact that it's like, for me, it's just like over in draft. It's really difficult to come back from it. And I think as well with the itemization we saw from the Maokai not being the only source of he's the only source of AP. He's not building Leandries. He's not going AP. And the fact you don't, I mean, it's...
I think like even if you, because you do when you're in a BO3, you do have to figure out some way to like take learnings from a game like this. And yeah, I think like there's obviously things to fix in draft, but also like mid lane got exposed to some enemy ganks. Right, and you have to be able to figure out like maybe I need to hug the side of river that my jungler's playing towards. Maybe I need to ward on better timings.
It was warded. That was the thing, though. They walked into that one.
It's rough. It's rough. They got to figure out something.
Yeah. But I mean, draft aside, we said that Malrang especially was one of the central points on this KOI lineup, and maybe one of the only members from last year's lineup who was performing to the expectations, and here didn't miss again, setting up Larssen on the mid lane.
Yeah, honestly, great to see Larssen in this form as well. I've really missed you, Larssen, because you are a phenomenal mid laner when you are doing your best, and that's what's happened here. This is like kind of, you know, I doubted Rogue when they played against Fnatic in summer. I doubted them a bit going into this season, and quickly again, they revitalized the kind of magic that they get going for themselves. Malrang and Larssen becomes a mid-jungle duo, and it worked this game.
And they played so well around each other too, because in the first gank, like, Larssen's flashing away, the enemy can't engage on Malrang because his Aftershock is proc, just buys time for the cooldowns to come up, and then after that, it's just Malrang looking for more creative angles to get into it. I do think how they executed in the 2 versus 2, especially the flash timing away, when all of a sudden SK are like, wait, can we chase forward? No, we can't, because there's an Aftershocked red buff Sejuani here. We can't fight into that. That just shut everything completely down, even though the initial trade looked positive for SK. They got Larssen super low, but then the W is coming back up. It's a
100% KP between the mid and jungle in the first 14 minutes of the game.
Normally?
I would argue that is quite all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll give you the floor in a few seconds for a sales pitch thingy, alternatives about draft, but we just got the information that SK chose blue for the next game, so...
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense why GV.
Well, once again, I think it comes down to it's easier drafting for your bot lane when you are blue side as well, and I think SK has the better bot lanes to go for here. And I honestly think they can roll with the Xayah again if they want to. If it comes to the fact where Ashe is off the table, Caitlyn is off the table, Lucian is off the table, they look fine when they play the Xayah. There's nothing wrong with bot lane whatsoever for SK. I don't think they need to change much.
Look, on blue side, you know what that means? They can guarantee first pick and AP champion. Solved. And you know what? I've got some ideas. I've got some ideas, okay? Look, because look, this last game, we're on red side, right? We take a little while. We get to the last pick. We're like, do you have any AP around here? I guess we've got a Maokai, but they're building tank. So let's lock in Renekton. No. That is not the idea. I want to throw out a couple of fun, fancy, new flavor types of picks that are AP and work in comp and in lane. The first one, the Seamstress. I got to give it up for Gwen. Big G over here. Look at that. She got the different colored eyes going on. She got that giant scissors, right? It's so good against the Gnar. Fine, that'll work. The scaling potential, the side lane power of a pick like Gwen, you absolutely gotta love it. But look, if that's a little bit too carry-oriented for you, I don't know, relevant, maybe you want to play that, maybe you don't. Let's do things the old-fashioned way. Let's go Gragas, right? That doesn't have to be full carry. I mean, you will build him full AP with like the Rod of Ages and all that stuff, just like we saw in the previous series. But hey, he's big. He looks like a tank. That could work right into the Gnar too, set up beautifully for some ganks on the top side. You bring your Maokai up there, you can shut down that Gnar so easily with the Gragas. Or you could just play Maokai in the jungle and build AP items right off the bat. That'll also work. I get it. You want to be the front line. You want to be a tank. You want to make that work. That's fine. But get some AP in there a little bit earlier. Another fantastic alternative could be, I don't know, you picked Jayce. Jayce is a top laner. Put Jayce in top lane. And then you have all these mid lane champions that you could pick that could be AP. And I mean, literally anything would have done it. Just not the Renekton.
That was beautifully done, Andrew. Thank you.
Well, very good sale pitch.
I had to get up and move so that people would understand that they needed to buy.
Yeah, it's about the power of
it makes me look like I'm saying things way more important.
It makes you look cool and that you're saying interesting things. Yeah. Anyway, let's focus on this on the next game. How do you come back when you're SK? We talked about the draft. I want to talk about individual performance and players who need to step up maybe.
I really don't think it's difficult. I think you have the player caliber to kind of rival what you're going up against. I think with blue side as well, you still force the Elise ban, but you can also put the Sejuani on Markoon if that's what you want to do instead. And then you can just respond to what bot lane will come through if they've been taken away. Or you could just go for the bot laners and then pick the... I think it's easy. Like, I really don't think it has to be difficult in draft for SK. I really just think that they need to just get something that works from them, where you actually just have the actual damage properties that works, and then you just play through the bot lane. Like, it worked really well. Even Relevant isolated on the top side was absorbing a lot of ganks. He was doing phenomenal into Szygenda. So, like, once again, I still think this game is going to be very competitive. I thought the first game was a fluke, and I think SK can surely take another.
And I think the pathway for SK, if they're trying to like clean up some of their mid lane problems as well, is if you're playing those roaming style supports, get into bot lane early and then unlock the roams towards the rest of the map. If you can get that Nautilus in towards mid lane, you make it a 3v2. I mean, it's going to look very nice for SK if they can start getting that jungle support moving around the map.
Yeah, let's see if they have weapons enough to answer and fight in this next game. AP
That's
is the
ability
answer
power.
here. We will see after the break if SK manages to fight back or if it's going to be a 2-0 in the favor of KOI. Stay tuned and stay with us.
You're so stupid.